You're now listening to the Something Good Podcast Network. Please press any key to continue.
I'm a podcaster.
All right, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Couch Bro-tatoes. I'm Alex
Morrison.
And this week we're going to be diving into probably another multi-parter, because the last multi-parter we did, we actually kind of abandoned.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to watch.
It's a great show, but running it down season to season was proving to be a little bit more difficult than we expected.
It's not meant to be binged.
Yeah, so if we get enough people bitching in the Discord, we'll dive back into Always Sunny,
Yeah.
but I think it's best if we just kind of leave that one as is. Yeah. But new ongoing series, and this also birthed out of a couple failed episodes. So look at the cover art for this show, whether it be before, the new artwork. Thanks, David Hammer, for the new updated graphic with Morrison now joining me on the couch. As it was always the Couch Potatoes with Chris Morrison, but the photo was me and Cap. So it's like, now we've finally gotten it updated. Morrison's on the front page of the artwork now. Yeah. But through that, it's definitely an homage to Beavis and Butthead. But if you look through the back catalog, we have never done an episode of Beavis and Butthead.
Nope.
We did the whole retrospective on King of the Hill.
Oh, yeah.
So we've definitely done Mike Judge material, but we have not done any episode dedicated to Beavis and Butthead. Yeah. And we, at one point, maybe about a year ago, we were like, fuck it, we'll do a watch along to Beavis and Butthead Do America. So I was like, I don't know how much we could talk about the original series that haven't been discussed already. Yeah. And running down the movie, I think it'd be funnier to do it as a watch along so we could react. And we got maybe 15 minutes into the movie and then realized it had ads, which threw off the entire recording session because the whole shtick is like you find it on a streaming service and you watch along with us. Yeah. Well, with fucking ads, there was no way we were going to be able to work around that. So we abandoned. I think it would be
funnier if you knew the ads weren't targeted and they were set ads. We could have just crashed.
Taunt shit over the ads. Yes. Yeah, actually, that would be funny if the ads were just baked in and, like you said, they weren't targeted specifically to each user. That would be great. Be able to, I have to figure out something on that. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, but either way, instead of trying to go back and being like, okay, well, let's talk about Do America again, figured we'd actually take the beginning of this episode, kind of talk about maybe our introduction to learning about Beavis and Butthead and how we felt about the revival, and then we'll talk about their first special, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, and kind of roll from there, because I think we could actually probably do another episode on this, breaking down the new season,
of course,
which came out. So all of this comes through Paramount Plus. It's part of their kind of big revival series. Paramount kind of has their hands in a lot of the different things. Like, is it Paramount part of like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, something like that? So I think it's Nickelodeon.
Yeah. So Paramount now encompasses Comedy Central, Nickelodeon. Paramount is actually the original UPN network. That's what UPN was, United Paramount Network. But it now encompasses BET, Comedy Central, the Paramount channel that was franchised out with cable packages, parts of TBS, parts of TNT, the Turner franchise. A lot of if you remember channels 32, 45, like the basic cable package. So a lot of that stuff got filtered into it. Your MTV has been a big part of it because it's part of Comedy Central as well. So they've really kind of carved out a niche for themselves in the streaming wars.
Yeah. And they've also been doing, like you said, as I mentioned, a bunch of revivals and also a bunch of like pushing of classic material, because they're the ones that have been really helping push out those new South Park specials and everything South Park is doing.
And what really pushed them out of the head was CBS, because CBS Network, the streaming service, had kind of collapsed in on itself because of all the deals they did with DirecTV, where you would have access to CBS through DirecTV. And so CBS realized they weren't making any money, so they ended up selling a lot of their content to Paramount. So CBS All Access, I don't know if you remember that one. That was But now that CBS All Access is now part of Paramount. What, you can watch Star Trek.
Okay, got it.
Which is my jam.
Yeah, I was actually I didn't have I made a bunch of notes for this episode, but I actually did not make any notes on all the different reboots and revivals that Paramount Plus has been kind of pushing out. The first thing I saw was an article literally saying that they were leaning on, it's a Paramount Plus leans heavy on reboots and spinoffs for streaming service slate, but this was also dated February 2021, so it's a little old, but at the same time, you definitely kind of get that vibe with it. With CBS is like, or Paramount Plus rather, is that they're doing a whole lot of the spinoffs, a whole lot of the reboots. Specifically, okay, this is what was really making me think on it too. They're the ones that did the live action Dora the Explorer. They're really spinning off a ton of fucking SpongeBob stuff. Rugrats made a reboot. They were starting to do a whole bunch of the Star Trek stuff. They were even rebooting shit like Ink Master, something that should have died.
Well, that's because Paramount owned Spike TV.
Frasier. They're rebooting Grease. I'm just kind of scrolling through. Reno 911. They rebooted that again. And Workaholics. So
did you ever watch that?
No, I didn't.
It is fantastic first season. Everything else is shit.
So with all that though, and with all the other kind of reboots and extensions outside of Paramount Plus, you see a revival of Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah.
And for me personally, when I heard that, I was pretty weary because this will kind of dig into when I first learned about them. When I first heard about them, seriously, like it feels like there was never a part of my life where I wasn't aware of who the characters were.
Yeah.
But my first real exposure to it came at the perfect time. I had just really started getting into harder rock stuff, like I was liking Kiss, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath. I was starting to really get into the good rock and roll heavy metal. And right at that time, MTV2 started running all of the marathons because they were putting out the Mike Judge Collection Volume 1 now on DVD. So it's like MTV2 just had like non-stop Beavis and Butthead, and they were re-airing Celebrity Deathmatch, the old claymation show. So they were blasting that on repeat. And it was one of, like, Mom didn't really dig me watching The Simpsons. She didn't want me watching South Park. But because she knew about Beavis and Butthead, because that came out when I was like young kid, so she'd watch that, like kind of send me to my room and watch it. Since she kind of knew about it, that was one of the few, like, fuck you type shows she let me watch when I was younger. So the Beavis and Butthead comedy got ingrained in me pretty early on, and it's funny because that show, much like King of the Hill with me, changed meaning and got funnier in different ways as I got older. Younger, I was laughing along with the guys making the butt and dick jokes. I'm like, yeah, that's funny, oh, and they're doing stupid things, oh yeah, destruction, yeah. But then as you grow up, you're like, oh, this is hilarious because they're fucking idiots. You don't think about their idiots thing when I was like, an early young teen, maybe a preteen. You don't think about them being idiots. It's just, oh, they're funny characters. Yes, I'm laughing at the dick and fart jokes. So I don't know. When I heard they were reviving it, I was like, this feels like a place and time moment.
Yeah.
And when they did that rebooted season, even, I would say maybe, 8 years ago, something. It's when it has some of your favorite quotes in it, where they're like mocking the Jersey Shore and Teen Mom,
Grandma JWoww and Grandpa Gorilla.
I didn't really care for that season. It felt stale. It felt kind of forced.
Yeah, that was like after like 2008.
Yeah, and even Mike Judge, in my opinion, was not doing the voices very well. So when I heard this was coming up, I was cautiously optimistic, but to be honest, within 5 minutes of the movie, I was like, okay, give me the fucking series. I want to see this shit.
The first time I ever got exposed to Beavis and Butthead at all was Celebrity Deathmatch.
Really?
Yeah, so that's when I first saw them. I never watched them growing up. I didn't start watching them until after I was out of high school, so around 2008, 2009. But I was a real big fan of Daria and Office Space and King of the Hill. So like these shows I really gravitated toward because they were hilarious. And
I was also kind of surprised you liked Daria. I mean, a lot of people know about Daria, but that wasn't a beloved show.
I really loved it because of her deadpan delivery is so perfect. And it's just cynical humor. You know, she's pretty much dead to the world. And there's always just like, God damn it, Daria, be positive. And then it's just like, no, this is going to end badly. And then it ends badly. And she's like, I don't want to say I told you so, but you're a fucking idiot. But I've the old seasons of Beavis and Butthead, I've only seen a handful of full episodes.
Yeah.
But when I got really into it was when I watched Do America.
Yeah.
Do America, just because of how insane of a story it is. And the people, like Mike Judge called in some favors on the voice acting. Robert Stack was at the tail end of his career doing Unsolved Mysteries, and that motherfucker grew up scaring kids.
And he also had some clout at this point because he had, I think at this point when he wrapped Beavis and Butthead, Office Space had been released, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, Office Space was about 1999.
Okay, that would have been right after then.
Yeah.
But King of the Hill was already out. So he already has 2 hit shows on 2 separate networks. So yeah, he had a little bit of, I mean, we've already talked about with our King of the Hill episodes about what season 2 he like had, or season 3 is when they had the Country Music Festival.
Yeah.
And it was just stacked with fucking guest stars.
But like even those, even with that, he goes from MTV, which the demographic of MTV is 13 to 21. Once you get on Fox at night, that jumps an extra like 2 decades. Now you're from 18 to 35, 40, you know, so that's what kind of made King of the Hill such a bigger hit was, hey, the guy who created Beavis and Butthead, and you got all these adults like growing up like, ugh, stupid fucking high bullshit. And there's this like
Bucktooth and Beaver.
But like he made a sitcom that was perfect, and you know, I'll just leave it at that when it comes to that. But like Beavis and Butthead growing up was always just like trash television.
Yep.
Because I don't know if you know anything about the creation of MTV2 and why it was created, was to overwhelm that sector of channels. Because before Fuse came up network, there was another network that was trying to become something. MTV just bought it and just named it MTV2. And Viacom's just like, that's perfect. We can syndicate all our stuff on our own network, so we don't have to pay nobody. And that was the basically creation of MTV2. VH1 did a better version when they did VH1 Classics.
Oh, yeah.
And was able to syndicate entire volumes of collection of music videos.
Oh, God, yes. Perfectly sectioned up. It's like, here's your 80s pop hits.
And then
here's your 90s grunge. And here's your 70s metal.
And then you start getting into those, like, just going to the networks themselves. You get into the Headbangers Ball collections. You get into the documentaries both MTV and VH1 made, like Heavy, the Story of Metal. VH1 was better at it. But the MTV catalog was kind of stacked because you would go. I remember on the guide, you would see, hey, Beavis and Butthead at 8 o'clock, Daria at 9 o'clock. You know, it'd be a double feature episodes, blah blah blah, and it'd be stacked with
like Pimp My Ride.
Yeah, Pimp My Ride, Room Raiders, stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
Trash television.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think Beavis and Butthead kind of set the stage for that because around that same time, you would have shows that your mom probably watched, was like The Real World back in the early 90s.
I don't know. She loved her soap operas, but she didn't really watch stuff.
Those are fascinating.
I remember she watched 90210.
Yeah, those. I grew up watching soap operas with my great-grandmother.
Yeah.
Those are fascinating. That's why
I'm not calling 90210 a soap opera. I say a soap opera in addition to.
Soap opera. But I remember watching those when I was a kid. And I was
She
fascinated.
liked General
by it.
Hospital.
Yeah, that's a fucking soap opera.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
But the thing is, okay, we're going to go side main tangent.
So,
But,
Days of Our Lives, let me tell you about
the
that.
The main reason I actually didn't mind, I would watch soap operas with Mom, but the reason why I didn't mind watching General Hospital is if you actually know the story, it's a mob story.
Yeah.
Where it's like they literally have a connection with the hospital so they can get their victims like treated / them treated off the books.
Yeah,
so it's a big mob / hospital story. It's fucking fascinating.
They're all fascinating because one involves evil twins. One
Oh
involves,
yeah! Oh yeah!
I don't give a fuck how many people, older people, hate Beavis and Butthead, hate The Simpsons. Don't you ever tell me about trash TV when this bitch has had a fucking evil twin who's lived in Europe for 40 fucking years, and now you're just like realizing, and then she black boxes you, throws you in a trunk, and becomes you. And I'm just like, Grandma, what happens next? We're gonna have to watch it tomorrow.
Oh yeah, so I think that.
Yeah, summer days with Chris was
Fuck
that.
it, we need to do a soap operas episode where it's like specific storylines we remember watching.
I remember one came out called Passions or something. It was about vampires or some shit. My grandma was fucking pissed. She's like, "This is stupid."
Well, if you guys want to hear two
Days of Our Lives, Guiding Light.
If you want to hear two white males in their 30s discuss soap operas we remember watching with our
grandmothers
moms and
and
grandmas, let us know in the Discord.
Shit, my dad will straight up tell you. We used to tape that shit when we would work. That's the whole point of the VCR.
But what do you think, kind of heading into Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe? Because since you said you like Do America.
I had such high hope. I had a lot of high hopes for it because Do America is so fucking hilarious. And it has one of the best jokes in an animated movie I've ever seen where they're in the airplane. And keep in mind, this is before 9/11. And like, they're in the cockpit. And the way they animate the pilot, and he just turns around and he looks like one of the characters from Heavy Metal. He's like, get the fuck out. This is like, I'm just like, if they can just hit one of those jokes like that, the whole movie's perfect. And it was. The movie was fucking hilarious from beginning to end. The soundtrack was perfect. Goddamn, they pulled Children of the Grave by Black Sabbath just out of nowhere for a police chase. And then the subtlety of like the delivery itself is perfect. Like, we joked about it before we started. It's like, I'm a deer.
And that's the reason why. So it's like, I already showed Chris, I have basically my own book written out here of notes, because I told him, I was like, when we go through and do the movie and do, the episodes, I've got to make a lot of notes, because it was the main reason why I was saying just doing a basic review of Do America wouldn't be that intriguing. And it's because exactly what you said, the humor is in the subtlety of some of the jokes. Some of the things that just kind of fly under the radar that even sometimes take a second or two to land are the funniest jokes, because Mike Judge is a great humor comedy writer. Look at Idiocracy. Yeah. He's great at writing stupid characters.
It's not really, I've never really saw him as writing stupid characters, as he's writing characters that are practically real. We talk about, fiction and like all these dumb things the hero or the villain does. And it's like, if you look at real life and how stupid actual people are, it's just Mike Judge writing the truth. That's all he's doing. Like some like the Do America's perfect example. Confusing two guys to be hitmen, which is a true story. You'd be surprised how many times that happens in real life.
Oh yeah.
And like in this one, it's just a bunch of people just being blind and ignorant to what these fucking two morons are doing to the umpteenth degree.
Yep. And I will say, this movie psyched me out, because I will say the worst part of the movie is the very, very first thing that happens. It's that CGI trench race through the logo, and it kind of zooms out. That moment scared me.
Really?
Because I was like, oh no. Because the title's called Do the Universe. And I'm like, if this is an example of the way the movie's about to look, I'm really fucking scared. Because it was like a flat 2-dimensional Beavis and Butthead and like a 3D landscape, like flying through the stuff, blowing things up. And they're just like, hey, yeah, this is cool. And I'm just like, oh no. But the true opening cuts to the boys sitting on the couch.
Yeah, the standard opening.
And they break the fourth wall and they say, Beavis goes, Butthead goes, some of you may have been wondering where we've been since we last saw you. And Beavis goes, it's a story of sex, violence, power, and fire, yeah! Don't forget about that. Yeah. And it's just like already showing that they've already broken the fire ban. So do you remember about the fire ban?
Yeah.
So what happened with that quick little narrative, which there's a great PS to the story, not a lot of people talk about, is there was a house fire. I didn't make the exact note on that, mainly because I just remember the main details.
Yeah.
House fire in some city state. And the news/mother chalked it up to the child watching Beavis and Butthead and the character of Beavis being very fascinated by fire.
Yeah.
And saying that influenced him to play with matches, which then set the house on fire. The media took that, ran with it. So MTV, and their little bit of censorship they did with, actually not a little bit, they tried doing a lot with Beavis and Butthead. That's a whole different story. But one of the many things that Mike Judge just kind of had to agree on is they were like, hey, Beavis cannot be fascinated with fire anymore. So every time for those last few seasons, you'd hear him go, he'd go, liar, liar, pants on. Whoa. And he would break it. He could not even say fire. So basically with him going, and fire, can't forget about that. It's just like, oh shit, they're just like, fuck the fire ban. That's done with. So even kind of leading it on a cool footnote, at least in my opinion with that.
Yeah. Well, that just goes to everything else we heard about The Simpsons, South Park, and all this. You know, God forbid you discipline your own fucking child and blame the TV.
Yeah.
You know.
So all of a sudden it does fade into Highland High School in 1998 with a classic of just Butthead kicking Beavis and the Nads over and over and over in the gym for the science fair. Van Dries asks the boys what they're doing, and Butthead replies, trying to see how many times I can kick Beavis and the Nads before he passes out. And Beavis smiles and just agrees with a yeah, and it already fleshes out the dynamic that something we've discussed on our own time, which is Butthead is an evil mastermind type, and Beavis just really wants a friend. They kind of hint at that in Do America, but I feel like that gets really fleshed out in this movie.
Well, and even in the movie and the series that we'll be discussing, it's just like you get a new dynamic with the character. He's just like, hey, Butthead, fuck you. Yeah. So like their relationship evolves.
Yeah, which I also think is very smart. Which is because even in the original series, there was a little bit of that where Butthead was seemingly a little smarter, but now it's more fleshed out to where Butthead is just more of a dick.
Yeah.
Through that comes smartness.
But even like you said, when they're just sitting there kicking them in the nads, that's a perfect of like, hey, this is where we left off as a show, just two fucking idiots in a fucking school environment.
Yeah, and of course, very important to note that they list Highland 1998. They're just like, we're taking you right back to the next day after the boys are walking off with the sunset with their TV and Do America.
Yeah.
What happened after that?
Yeah.
It's like, this is the next day. They're kicking each other in the nuts.
They went back home and watched a Limp Bizkit music video.
Yeah, and the Van Driessen asks if that's for their science fair project, and they even ask what the hell that even means in the middle of the science fair. And I made a lot of notes for the science fair because there was a lot of really good subtle jokes that you don't catch unless you freeze frame. And I freeze framed this movie. Seeming like it's a pointless setting, Van Driessen does tell the boys that they have a need to take the role more seriously because they could have won a free trip to NASA space camp. Beavis thinks that rules and tries to pitch immediately that they need to start working hard. He's like, kicking me in the nads, doing measurements, and we actually wrote stuff down with a pencil like you're supposed to, and maybe we could just prove everyone wrong and win the whole science before he gets slapped by Butthead and just like, shut up. Yeah. So it's like, again, proving that Beavis could be successful if he applied himself.
Yeah, because his anchor is Butthead.
Yes.
It's bringing him down every fucking time. We see that a lot in like the music videos and stuff like that. But it kind of creates that dynamic very quickly of just like, Butthead, you're the problem.
Yeah. You
will always be the problem. And
Beavis isn't a saint, but you are the problem.
Yeah. It is kind of funny that Van Driessen, which I loved Van Driesen just because of the movie.
Hey guys.
Lesbian seagulls. And I'm just like, that is the funniest fucking song that they pulled. I was hoping he would be in that setting, like wearing just at least a shirt that said that.
Lesbian seagull.
Yeah.
Butthead does eventually lead him over to the Power Kick 3000 football punter and tells Beavis to stand in front of the kicker and starts cranking it. And these are the moments where, this is why I put a lot of notes. The visual and the timing humor of this makes the scene funny because you can guess what's going to happen from a mile away.
Yeah.
Beavis is about to get a big old swift kick in the nuts by the football punter.
Yeah.
But it's the anticipation. Yeah. It's the knowing it's coming.
It kind of the whole scene reminded me of the episode of The Simpsons where he's got the paint can, or the soda, and he puts it in the paint can shaker, and like the way they vibrate, and like the paint can or the soda can is continuously shaking, even after he takes it out, and it's just like it's a nuclear bomb.
Exactly, and that's why the humor in this scene works. It isn't just a kicking in the nads moment; it's the anticipation of the humor that's about to come, and. He goes, Beavis asks him if he's going to kick him in the nads again. Butthead replies with, no, those days are behind us. Butthead Beavis is like, oh, good. That's a relief as the foot is still just cranking up, furthering it with this. That's the best news I've heard all day. Hey, what's that? Whack! It sends them flying through the gym, screaming, shattering glass, along with beakers of synthetic polymers that start a fire that meet with another project just simply titled Diesel Fuel, which breaks out and a fire immediately explodes, and Beavis lands in a project called Our Friend the Cactus. Yeah.
It's basically your middle school science fair, and as someone who's done the middle school science fair quite a bit, I remember just looking around a lot of times just like, oh, this is dangerous.
Yeah.
Because it'd always be the kid with like the volcano made of baking soda and vinegar. And I had made one made of 2 metal rods and a thing of water hooked to a battery to create hydrogen.
Right.
And I'm just like, one person who's just talking about had just, the little trifold thing. I'm just like, all these are fire hazards and you put us in a giant room together. All this is kindling.
Don't do this.
Don't do this. Like making candy with Bobby.
And of course, ending with the perfect moment because the gym is on fire, everyone's screaming, all this other shit. Beavis is coughing up the fucking, like gets shit from the cactus. Turns to Butthead, which is walking up to him, and he goes, "Did we win the science fair?" He goes, "Even better, Beavis. We kicked its ass."
And everything just burning down.
And you even get the visual gag of like the Zeppelin burning. And then it comes to the courtroom. Judge finds him guilty of basically disrupting, all this other shit.
And you see the whole town is there.
Yes.
All our mainstay characters are there watching them being found guilty. Even Daria.
Yes. Daria's in the courtroom along with the gym teacher. And which I was hoping he was going to get a line. I wanted to hear the gym teacher yell, which we didn't hear in the whole season either, unfortunately. It's Mike Judge. It's not like he couldn't have done it.
Yeah, you probably wanted to create more subtlety than anything.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, Judge finds them both guilty, in which they find that as a positive and both reply, yeah, kick ass, before the judge does decide that after watching an episode of Touched by an Angel, that they are simply at-risk troubled youth with no parental figures and need better education, sending them to the space camp. And the best line in this whole courtroom scene to me is the judge goes, "Do you know what Neil Armstrong did?" Beavis goes, "Did he score?" He's like, "He was the..." And see, this is what's great. He goes, "Did he score?" He doesn't even reply to that. He's like, "He was the first man on the moon." Beavis is like, yeah. Again, just showing this is like, you could be the first man on the moon, but if you didn't score, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious to me that was his sentence, which kind of goes into like the more liberal kind of idea of punishment. Where like all these
especially for 98
for Texas
98,
they would have got the death penalty.
You burned down a school and listened to heavy metal.
Attempted murder with conspiracy to commit murder. I would if I was a prosecutor, I could have got these guys to the chair.
Oh yeah, you would have been like, "So do you listen to that devil music?" "Yeah, the devil rules."
Yeah, he kicks ass.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh boy, I got this.
Now, Mr. Beavis, you think the devil quote scores?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's cold. It's got fire. It scores.
I present evidence. One, it's a bag of matches, and it's like the matches are gone. He's already lighting them on face. He's like, he's a danger to the community. He needs to be killed.
At NASA, Captain of the Space Shuttle Endeavour, Serena Ryan, and Jim Hartson, the Lieutenant Commander, which is also as important before Serena cuts him off.
So the Endeavour was a real rocket in the late 90s. That's what caught my eye when I first watched it, because this was actually one of the few rockets that right before we stopped using the shuttle program. We don't use a shuttle anymore because it tends to explode. I'm sorry, it's true.
So let's laugh about it. Fuck it.
Hey, the Challenger and the Columbia did not make it. But I was watching this. I remember I had a model of the shuttle, and there is a giant arm that comes out of the shuttle that is part of it, and I'm just thinking, a blast from the past kind of thing. It's like doing all this artwork of an old shuttle, picking something out of space, putting it back in, and I'm just like, this is when like NASA was at like its lowest point. It was. NASA was at its lowest point in the late 90s because there's no reason to go to space.
True. Well, not in this movie, though. She does tell the group that they were planning on bringing a new telescope to the space station to observe a small black hole, in which the boys immediately start giggling at the word hole. She starts explaining about wormholes and how you could use it to travel through time and space. Interesting. A space theory.
Yeah, a butthead theory.
They do start demonstrating to the class how they're going to dock the telescope in Russia's Mir space station, which basically looks like fucking. And the boys immediately love it. And they're entranced to sit behind the control panel and make the telescope go in and out of the docking station literally until the following morning. So for a full ass 24 hours, they are making this thing simulate going in and out of the docking station. And instead of them seeing it as just two degenerates behind a control panel fucking around, NASA sees this as dedication to them practicing and decides to take them upon the mission to help with setting up everything. And the way they approach them
blindness to ignorance.
Yes. And I love they approach them because they're talking about behind their back. They're like, the boys stayed up all night practicing. That we need to more as people for this mission. Let's go ask. So they walk up to them and they're like, boys. They're like, shut up, we're busy. Just the immediate on guard.
And if you remember the animation of them doing it, it was one arm, two arms, one arm spanking the bottom of it.
Oh, that gets to the full training portion because of course they have to ask them in the most vague way possible to where two horny teenage boys hear nothing but fucking, because they ask if they want to do it for real, thinking that Serena means sex, referring to docking the space telescope. So the boys immediately say yes, and under the pretense that they're finally going to score with Serena. And then you get your training montage in which Butthead goes, Beavis, the government is about to train our schlongs for all mankind. And at the press conference, of course, once the people get Beavis and Butthead's names wrong, an ongoing joke throughout not only the series but the movie. And this one was Mr. Beavan and Mr. Boothroyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then later on in space, Serena's sharing a tender moment with them. They've already gotten up in the air, and she's just like, "Look at the Earth, this, that, and the other." They're like, and they're like, "Yeah, let's go ahead and let's do the thing now." And they're like, "We won't need that for a couple hours. Just look at the beautiful setting." It's been a few hours now, hasn't it? Yeah. So all they can think about is scoring. So she's like, she fucks off, and before she leaves though, she goes, "Yeah, feel free to hang out here. Take a look at the nice view. Just don't mess with the control panel unless you want to mess up like millions of dollars worth of fucking gear. Yeah. Leave it the hell alone." And leaves. 2 seconds later, "Hey, Beavis, let's mess with that control panel." Yeah. No. So they start moving the fucking telescope around, and Beavis looks into this telescope after pointing it toward the sun. Yeah. And again, it's the suspense of the comedy, because he's like taking his sweet ass time, about to look into it. He's just like, "Yep, let's see what we've got here, and let's just see." He leans back, starts screaming. He goes, "I saw something, but then it went away." Butthead goes, try the other eye. You got two of them. But Beavis goes, oh, yeah, good idea. Butthead, and again, immediately burns his eye. And then Butthead just goes, damn it, Beavis, you can't do anything right. Step aside. And then immediately burns his eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love this idea that they could point a telescope at the sun, and the sun could burn their eyes out through a telescope. And I'm thinking, that's not how that works. But damn it, it's funny.
Oh yes,
it's fucking
great.
fantastic.
It's great.
It's
and the animation of them blind, because they've got like the puffy white milky eyes, but like the pupils are going all different directions. But Beavis has like that constant like fucked up grin, and they're like smacking everything around them trying to see, and they're like, we can't see.
Well, the animation, the little porthole they're looking through has light shining out of it.
Yeah. Like this laser beam of white light, and they're just like, let's look in it.
But they make it to the Mir space station, which is a real thing.
Yes.
And they kill the man inside of it.
Yes. So because due to their complete blindness, they wind up fucking up the entire thing. It kills a guy, praising the fire, everything else. And you get like the great visual of like the guy giving the thumbs up. And then it's like, and then he's like, thumbs down. He's like, no. Yeah. So at this point, Beavis and Butthead have killed a guy.
Yes, they've committed murder.
They can go to jail. But would it be, could they actually do anything? It's in space. There's no jurisdiction in space.
Fun fact. Space.
I know this is your favorite fucking like
space.
Why is this
space files under maritime law, and because it is a coalition of the willing, a murder it can be convicted in space as long as the victim's agreeing government party believes it's a murder. So they're in a Mir space station, which is Russian based. So they killed a Russian man. If the Russian government states that he was murdered by American officials in space, then yes, those Americans will be tried for murder. It's no different from killing a person in the middle of the ocean.
International waters, fuck them.
It's maritime law.
But yes, eventually the boys come to and can see again, and they find out that they have enough oxygen for 5 people, yet they have 7 on board, and that 2 people will need to sacrifice themselves.
I like how they're just like looking at each other and just like, we can kill these 2 right now.
Yep. And Beavis leads the group to believe that they are apologizing for messing up the trip and will sacrifice themselves, only to ask them to turn the TV back on, because they had like TV from Mission Control and it like turned off, and they're like, great, now we've lost, mission control. And they're like, turn the TV back on. This sucks. And then blame others for being a dumbass before Serena decides to sacrifice herself along with someone else volunteering before disappearing down the steps. The boys do follow along, and Beavis proceeds to thank her for letting them score with her. Yet she takes that as a typical apology, ignoring their sexual advances, which again, everyone is so oblivious to like what they say. It's almost like the Stewie isms in Family Guy, where it's like they only hear what they want to hear from Stewie. They only hear what they want to hear from Beavis and Butthead. They only see what they want to see. So again, with that one, takes it as a regular apology, and then gives them her bracelet and tells them to watch her through the window doing what she loves, implying as she sacrifices herself. Butthead takes that as she wants them to watch her change through the window out inside of space. So they put on spacesuits, go outside the ship, and start taunting and waving at her, and Butthead loses her bracelet. She then smacks them into deep space with that said arm that you said had from the side of the thing. So you think, oh, okay, well, they're just going to be drifting through space now. But she comes back through and she's like, hey, I've got terrible news. Beavis and Butthead have sacrificed themselves so we could get home safe.
She committed murder with extra steps.
So as she's doing that, they wind up splattering themselves back upon the window. She gets a panicked look, hits the thruster, and then they like go away again. And then all of a sudden, and then she goes, while their tragically brief lives may be over, they will forever live in our memories as they rocket through space. And the little text comes up across the screen that says several days later. You just see them just floating through space, and Butthead just goes, the elaborate art of seduction continues. The elaborate dance of seduction continues. That's what it was. Again, the complete obliviousness.
Mm-hmm.
They are rocketing through space and for days, and Butthead is still just like, yep, any moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of, I know it's a cartoon, and I know Mike Judge is having kind of a field day doing this, but like after about 8 hours in space, they'd be dead because they would have suffocated.
The oxygen.
Yeah, they would have suffocated. And just the fact that they got hit by a ship in space, eventually they're going to fall because they're not that far out in space. Eventually they'll gravitate back toward the Earth and burn the fuck up.
Which apparently is what happened with Serena or something, because you find out later she's still alive.
Yeah, so they make it back to space, or they make it back to Houston.
Well, yeah, so, but before that, actually, it's Galveston. But yeah, so as they're floating through space, they start getting pulled into a black hole that Butthead thinks is a butthole. And Beavis says that he has dreams about dying in a butthole, and he doesn't want to go in there. But for me, the black hole in the quote from Serena is an interesting allegory for them disappearing for all those years. Being like, all of a sudden, it's just like, in 98, they just disappear.
Yeah.
Which, to me, also kind of says that Mike Judge is going, we're going to ignore that other MTV season that we did in the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
It was even just his kind of way of just being like, look, after the movie and after the original series,
yeah, we were done.
They disappeared, okay? Yeah. Because
never happened.
Yep, because all of a sudden they awaken on a beach of Galveston, Texas in 2022. And you find out that Serena is the governor of Galveston, so the boys embark on an adventure to find her and score with her after thinking the billboard is literally a sign for them to find her. Yeah. And because Beavis goes, that's really thoughtful of her. She's such a nice lady. Butthead goes, yeah, now let's go do her.
So what I like about this was it plays off into the season, the new series a little bit better, but because it does a 2 timeline kind of situation. But I do love that they decided to skip and make it now, not 2020 to 20, not 2020, not 2021. Now, they made the effort to go ahead and just shove it forward, and the gap between 1998 and 2022 is fucking brutal.
Well, the other thing I liked about it is, okay, take King of the Hill, for instance. They started in, 96, 97, somewhere in that area? Yeah. So the technology of 96, 97, 98 was very different from 06, 07 when they finished. Yeah. So the characters never aged, but the technology around them always progressed.
It was very subtle.
It was subtle.
Yeah, so
but at the same time, smartphones were being incorporated, flat screens were eventually incorporated. So it was also kind of nice that all of a sudden it wasn't just the same characters, same setting, they just happened to now be in the modern age. Yeah. They completely addressed it and was just like, here they are in 2022, which also made it smart because in the series you find Van Driesen is still teaching, but he's older. Yeah. So they aged
lesbian retired seagulls.
Yes, so they've aged the core original characters, which I like, which means they don't have to worry about dealing with the kid characters as much and dealing with all that sort of stuff because, well, they're not part of this group anymore. They're old. The boys are still young in 2022. Yeah. So I kind of like that aspect. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so they do a fast cut to the Pentagon where they learn that a major space-time breach in American airspace has been detected and that something came through, believing them to be aliens due to their heat signature and the way they look. And they go, this is why we needed that space telescope to observe the black hole in 98, damn it. Immediately calling back to it, which just makes it great because it's like, that's been lingering on their minds. It's like that goddamn failed space program we had in 98 fucked everything up.
What's funny is just because it connects now because of the last midterms, a former astronaut becomes the governor of Texas, and her partner, her lieutenant governor, is also her former lieutenant on the spaceship.
Yeah, Lieutenant Governor. I love that joke.
Congratulations to Arizona for electing an astronaut just this past week. Who was probably part of the most controversial NASA experiment. When we send twins into space and see what happens to one of them, just is a weird Nazi experiment. But like, he just got elected. I kept thinking about, like, this is the exact story of Beavis and Butthead. they elected an astronaut as a governor.
The knowledge you have is amazing.
It's disgusting.
But yeah, so they decide that they need to hunt them down to dissect them. And as they leave the room, you see in the computer background there are 2 more additional life forms that show up at the same beach with the exact same heat signatures.
Yeah.
They do cut back to the beach where you find out these alternate universe kids named Smart Beavis and Smart Butthead appear before them. And basically they speak like this, and they're kind of like aliens. And apparently they're just like the smartest versions of Beavis and Butthead in any alternate dimension. And they make like Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse jokes. And they're like, oh, if you had seen that, this would explain this a lot easier. We don't have time to explain it. Just hear us out.
Yeah, we just need you to do this one thing.
Yes.
And go do it.
Yes. They said that you just need to, you've teared a hole in space-time reality. You got to jump through this hole at the top of Mount Everest, get back to your time frame before the whole universe, all the multiverse collapses on itself, because you're not supposed to be here.
I do like how, like, even though they're Smart Butthead, Smart Beavis, they are dumb as shit.
Oh, yes.
They're always just dumb as fuck, because they're just like, we could, we're aliens. We could just transport you to Mount Everest and just go ahead and knock this out.
But no, you need to go there yourself.
No. Or we could put it in your closet. Whichever's easier.
And they also find out that no version of Beavis and Butthead have ever scored in any reality, leading them to believe they're going to be the first.
Yep.
Again, the beautiful ignorance of these special children.
Yep. Don't call them special. They're idiots.
So yeah, they immediately disregard the mission and go right back to their mission of trying to score. Yeah. Governor Serena and Lieutenant Governor Jim Hartson see a photo of Beavis and Butthead that they took at Serena's re-election booth. She goes, they look exactly like those kids I killed on the mission in '98.
Just a slip of the tongue.
And you also find out there was cannibalism on board.
Yeah.
Because one of the astronauts ate the other.
Yeah.
In which Lieutenant Governor, I lost his name immediately. Lieutenant Jim immediately goes, which I had nothing to do with. I did not eat anyone.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, like my knowledge of this is fucked up, but like NASA has stated multiple times that astronauts will not have to resort to cannibalism. Yeah. Because of the things that are packed on the space vehicle, and I'm just like, this is even funnier because no one knows that, because there's basically like these ultra powerful painkillers that astronauts could take to kill themselves, but like, so they wouldn't have to resort to cannibalism.
Damn.
Because of the movie The Martian, NASA had to walk back a bunch of shit and be like, no, an astronaut stranded on Mars will not have to just eat potatoes and go crazy.
I remember that.
Please understand, we have plans just in case they get stuck.
Serena does deduce that they must have fallen through the black hole and through time and space, and then immediately jumping back to the idea that she has to kill them before the government finds out about them. And then it immediately cuts to the phone gag with the Swedish family, and they're like, what is this tiny TV?
I like how they just they're not victims of circumstance, but they are just like chaos run amok.
Yes.
Because everything they do is a crime throughout the movie.
Yes.
So they technically rob the Swedish family.
Yeah, because the Swedish family just keeps backing up and eventually falls off the pier, and they just walk away with the phone. They try to buy nachos, and they're like, we don't have money. And the guy's just like, use your phone. Yeah. He's just like, what's your password? And they're like, password? He goes, that's original. Types that in. Sure as shit, that's the Swedish guy's password. Yeah. And then goes, ping. He's just like, whoa. Can you buy anything with that? And it's like, yeah, anything. And they just go on a nacho buying spree. It's like they go to like this diamond place and buy like this big ass fucking like bowl and just like dump nachos in it. They do like this whole rap video where they're just like throwing fucking nachos and chips, and then like cuts to reality and they're just like doing that in the 7-Eleven. But actually leads into probably a very interesting plot element, which is the very next morning they wake up nacho drunk in their hotel. And Beavis is trying to tell Butthead that they need to get back to finding Serena. And as Beavis is holding the phone up, he says, "Hey, seriously," which winds up activating Siri on the phone. And it just basically goes, "How can I help you?" And he's just like, "Who is this?" He goes, "I'm Siri," thinking that's shorthand for Serena, Siri.
Yeah.
So...
And he slowly builds a relationship with Siri.
Yes, he starts talking to the AI about emotions and life, and you find out that Beavis has a pretty low self-esteem and is actually pretty intelligent and emotional and just wants someone to talk to, and says no one ever hears the real Beavis.
And it kind of reminds me of that movie Her, where the guy talks to his phone. But it also reminded me of the other version of that movie where they made a comedy where a guy's like has an abusive AI in his phone. She's like, "Why didn't you take me with you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my phone. It's okay if you don't love me." And I'm just like, this is what's coming to. This is what Alexa and Siri is going to end up being. This has been like you forgot to order chips.
Why haven't you asked me to do anything in the last 2 days?
Yep.
Because I haven't fucking needed you, bitch.
I'm going to go ahead and just unplug you. No, don't.
Butthead hears all this, and Beavis runs off to the back bathroom because she's just like, "I don't understand Butthead." He's like, "I don't either." And she's like, "I don't understand Beavis." He's like, "Neither do I."
Yeah, they try to create, like, even with the new series and this movie, they try to create a little bit more dynamism for Beavis, which I like.
And so at that point, Butthead is screaming at Beavis to unlock the bathroom door, and the phone tells them that it can't unlock the door unless they set up the home app, and if you would like her to help them set up their home, making them believe that she is at their house.
Yeah.
So at this point, they go back home as fast as they can. Beavis steals the phone back from Butthead and admits that the phone. And admits to the phone that he feels some sort of way about Serena that he does about nachos, as he's doing this in like a porta potty right outside the fucking hotel they just left. And the entire time, Butthead's just like banging on the door. He's just like, "Damn it, Beavis, you better not be talking to Serena in there." He goes, No, I'm just spanking my monkey." He's like, "You better be." This is like fucking gross.
Yeah. You better be jacking off in there.
Yeah, it's just like, I am. He's like, "Good."
Yeah. Are you getting emotional support in there by an AI created by a phone that we stole from some Swedish people?
"No, I'm spanking my monkey."
You better be.
So eventually Butthead makes his way in there. They fight. The phone goes bouncing around the fucking porta potty, lands in there. And honestly, this turns into the only moment of the movie that I didn't think was funny. Only because I don't find poop humor too funny. Like actual dealing with feces funny. Like a fart joke can be funny. Saying poop or talking about it can be funny. But just like the physical humor of poop, I don't find as funny. So like, of course, the phone falls into the porta potty, and Butthead's just like, "All right, you gotta fish it out now." And he's just like, "No." He's like, "Get your ass in there, Beavis," and like basically crams his ass down in there. And all this while, the porta potty's getting lifted up in the back of a moving van, and it takes an abnormally long trip all the way across town, which takes like an all-nighter. And it's kind of funny because it's like a montage of like Butthead like jumping on Beavis's ass, like pushing him into the porta potty, being like, "Look for the phone, asshole." As like, the car is still driving. He's just like, "Look in there," and then it cuts back to it. It's just this beautiful countryside. And then they're like, they're both like asleep. And they're like, Butthead's just like racked up against the side. Beavis like head still in the fucking porta potty. And then it's like it wakes up. Butthead just looks at Beavis. He goes, "Time to wake up, Beavis." Starts jumping on him again. And then, of course, they get dropped off right outside a college. And at this point, is like, I don't know. It just, to me, it didn't feel as needed for the porta potty joke.
I think it was the University of Texas they get dropped off in front of.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just didn't think the poop humor was needed in that. They could have done something a little funnier to get him over there.
It probably would have been funnier if they got both knocked out.
Yeah. See, again, see, but again, that's personal bias. I'm just not a big fan of the poop humor like that. So, hey, if that's so far my only critique is one little cutaway gag that lasted maybe a minute and a half of a montage scene, that's pretty good on my book. But yeah, they get see, we're
Dropped off to the university.
Yeah, but I was just trying to find my specific paragraph. But yeah, they get dropped off right outside the college, and they're once again met by Smart Beavis and Smart Butthead, telling him that they're like, look, we told you Mount Everest, all right? We get it. That was a long trip. We feel you. Yeah. All right. That was a little bit of a longie. We thought we had to put it at the highest part of your world so it could be closer to the universe. But like, you know, no. even in our wealth of wisdom, we are Beavis and Butthead. We are dumb. No. We didn't realize that it could be anywhere. So we've actually put it right behind that building, right over there. Yeah. Like, see that building right there, Buds? Right there.
Got there.
20 feet away, friends. You just got to walk right behind that building. Walk right in there. That's all you got to do. Don't waste any time. Like, fuck off. Then they just go walking away.
Meanwhile, there's 45 minutes left in the movie.
Yeah. And then at that point, the government this whole time has still been following them. And Serena is still hot on their trail trying to kill them and hoping that the government doesn't find them. So she doesn't realize the government already knows about them.
So you got two people chasing these motherfuckers down. The people who tried to murder them and the people that are going to murder them.
Yes. And murder them again. Because Serena's just like, we've got to kill these kids. Yeah. But eventually the boys find themselves inside of the college.
Yes.
And they find their way into a classroom titled Gender Studies 203. Mm-hmm. And this is probably the best scene in the entire film. And I didn't write a lot of notes on it. And there was no need because I watched the scene a few minutes right before Chris actually put the scene on himself. Because, again, it's still just the absolute best. They're teaching, of course, gender studies. And if it's a preppy college campus, it's going to be very much, you know, cis white male is the enemy, that kind of stuff. And in the past, King of the Hill has not been afraid of tackling those sort of subjects. Beavis and Butthead never really had to. They're just there for laughs and heavy metal. Mm. But it was kind of nice to see them kind of take a King of the Hill thought process, but put it through the Beavis and Butthead lens.
Yes.
If Bobby heard this class, he would have taken it to the nth degree.
Like he did with Thanksgiving.
Like he did Thanksgiving. And it would have been, white men are the fucking devil. How dare you even do anything? He would have taken it to the extreme. And then Hank would have been like, Bobby, look, like, you know, yes, we've done a lot of bad things. But like the best thing we can do is like be friends and allies. Not like, you know, shitting on each other. This anger doesn't help anything. The positivity and helping each other helps. Beavis and Butthead don't hear it like that because the conversation goes down as the teacher's telling them about white privilege. She goes, of course you don't have to read stuff because you don't need to because daddy's connections got you into college and they're going to get you a job on Wall Street.
You know what the biggest fuck you about this whole the whole scene? They automatically presume because they're white guys they have money.
Yes.
And it's the biggest fuck you turnaround joke in the whole goddamn movie. And it reminds me of Dave Chappelle talking about, you know, the whole like, you know, the woke movement.
Yeah.
And how just like it went from cops stop killing people to white women problems.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is exactly what Dave Chappelle was talking about. And I'm just like, it's the biggest fuck you turnaround because she just automatically assumes. Two kids, they're teenagers, wearing a Metallica shirt and an AC/DC shirt, wearing short shorts. Yes, these are the white devil.
Yes.
Obviously, they're broke as fuck.
Yeah.
To the great elite whites, these are white trash.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like, and you get a bunch of good cutaways where it's like, you know, the class is explaining to them what white privilege is, all this other shit. And the other great joke is there was a girl in the class that was black. So, of course, you know, you would let her speak up about white privilege and let her explain. But she gets fucking like 5 words deep
it's cut off.
Yeah, and then this fucking bearded white guy with like blue eyes. It was the blonde hair, blue eyes motherfucker.
He's like that barista looking motherfucker.
Yes, it's the new age. Yeah. New age. And like cuts her off. She's like, I've got this. White privilege is when.
Yeah, that's right, Gage.
But so we already got the interesting character art with Beavis. Mm-hmm. That being, he wants love, attention, and support.
He wants to be a regular person.
Yes. you find out that Butthead secretly longs for his dad.
Yeah.
Or like a family.
Yeah.
Because when she mentions, because daddy's connections got you into college and will get you a job on Wall Street.
Oh, you know my dad?
He immediately, wide eyes, goes, wait a minute. Do you know who my dad is? And they even play like a little bit of that like soft music in the background, kind of insinuating like they're not playing this as a joke. This is an actual moment for Butthead.
And I love the punchline of this is just like, yeah,
he goes, wait
I know, I probably know your dad. He'll probably get me fired, but I don't care.
Yeah, and he's like, cool, my dad's powerful. And then Beavis goes, oh, that's cool, because Butthead's mom said he died of syphilis. Wow.
And like, that kind of throws you off guard when I first heard. I'm just like, God, he died. If she said he died of syphilis, he died a terrible death.
Yeah.
Because syphilis eats your fucking skin away.
But that's also a lie, because we saw Butthead's dad.
Yeah.
But yeah, after realizing they have white privilege, they go busting through the school, stealing food, destroying property, saying shit like, don't worry, it's okay. We automatically assume we can take what we want and don't have to worry about the police.
It's white privilege.
It's okay. We didn't know. It's okay you didn't know. We didn't know either. And the Butthead just like grabs this ice cream from a kid and just goes, it's okay. This is what we were taught, sir. And the Butthead and the Beavis goes, we're subverting the existing paradigm.
Yeah. And I just like they went from, this is a theoretical thought process into like, this is a metaphysical thing we can do right now.
Yes.
we could go from this thought that, the corporation white guys take whatever they want to. Let's just take what we want.
Yeah.
Like a Christopher Columbus type motherfucker. This is my ice cream. This is my police car.
Exactly. They make their way outside.
Because that what's caught me is Beavis even says it. He's got enough mental capacity to say,
that's right.
That's a police car.
Yeah, and Butthead's like, yeah, let's steal it. He's just like, I don't know, Butthead.
Shut up.
Yeah, like even Beavis, Mr. like will set fucking anything on fire. It's just like, I don't know,
because he's
Butthead.
smarter. He's smarter.
Yeah. And he's just like, no, didn't you forget? He's like, we've got white privilege. He's like, oh, yeah. And eventually they hop in, fucking like try stealing it, back into a fucking other police car. They get arrested and they're yelling about white privilege the fucking entire time. Makes for a funny
officer,
gag.
It's okay. You must don't know. Why he's got a gun pointed to his fucking head.
And eventually as they're getting arrested, I get one of the best lines. Beavis goes, yeah, the youth pastor said we'd always be here someday. We finally made it. Which Butthead just goes, the system works, Beavis.
Out of all the things they've done, they finally go to jail.
Well, you grab a cop car, you run that backward, you're going to get a little bit of consequence.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't get shot.
But the feds barely miss them, but do find the phone, thinking they decide to ditch it while they were on the run. And Serena also finds out the feds are in this too and think they know about Serena, quote, killing them in the 90s. They cut back to the prison, in which a fellow prisoner gives Beavis some pills to stash away because a room check's about to happen. But Beavis immediately takes all the pills and turns into the Great Cornholio, which I was hoping at some point this movie we were going to get Cornholio. Yeah. And we got it, and it was great.
Well, it's just like all these, he just took a handful of illicit substances.
Yeah. That someone in a fucking jail gave them.
You have to assume they're uppers.
Oh,
of some type.
He said they were salty.
Yeah. All pills are salty because they have sodium in them.
Yeah.
But just like, he probably took.
Well, with your wealth of knowledge, I didn't know if there's like a specific drug that has a salty aftertaste.
He probably took a handful of some version of codeine, which is but with an upper, kind of like an Excedrin or something like that, but a version of something that keeps you awake. And I'm just like, is that DMT? Did he give him like a version of codeine and DMT, and why his brain is fucking probably on fire right now? Whoa! Yeah, and that's why he's having this giant hallucination, because he does it with sugar. We know that he does that with sugar, but like this is an upper of some kind of like some caffeinated DMT or some shit.
Oh yeah, he does it with sugar and caffeine, because we also saw in the Great Cornholio episode he's drinking a whole bunch of coffee, and that gets him going too.
Yeah.
So Cornholio starts an entire ass riot in the prison, and while this is happening, Butthead is trying to get a pair of butt cheeks on his forehead, one right here and one right here, pointing to different sides of his forehead. And the other inmate just basically goes, he's like, hey man, you want to like get dice or like something else? And just Butthead scoffs at him and just replies, dice? This is gonna be on my forehead the rest of my life, dumbass. And so you've got this big, awesome compilation of, just Cornholio inciting this big riot and everyone just losing their shit.
You're right. We need better TP in this
Yeah, we
motherfucker.
need better TP. Yeah. And one of the guards is just like, what's going on? He's like, oh, supposedly these kids that like died in '98 and like they're starting a riot in this prison. And this specific guard is just like, wait, they disappeared in '98? They're like, yeah, now they're back for some reason. He's just like, I think they have a message to give.
It's like Touched by an Angel.
It's like Touched by an Angel. It's just like, yes, I love that fucking callback because this character just fucking sits at home, watches MeTV, and catches fucking reruns of Touched by an Angel.
I used to have MeTV. That was shit.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so the prison guard believing Beavis to be some sort of, believing something special, and after supposedly being died back in 1998 and watching Touched by an Angel, decides to let them free and wipe their records. Because later on the government does roll on up and they're just like, hey,
asshole, where they at?
Where are those kids? He's like, I've never seen them in my life. He goes, no, asshole, really. We know they were here. Where are they? He goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. You can't crack me. Like that.
It's just like, they're going to crack you, dude. They're going to crack you in the fucking head.
And Serena's like, look, I didn't come down here for fucking nothing, okay? I'm here to liberate those two kids from your jail, okay? It's part of my campaign run. I'm going around and liberating people from jail. I need them. And he's like, well, they're gone. I'll give you another inmate, though. It's like... Okay. And it winds up being the guy that gave Beavis the pills.
And they ended up getting fucking ham-shanked by these motherfuckers.
Yep. A few cutaways later, it's like they're tied up a tree and they're like doing donuts with the fucking police car or their own personal car. Woo!
Yeah, fuck you, bitch.
And so Beavis and Butthead are on a bus on the way back home, and they're asleep, and you wind up getting a little glimpse into their dreams, in which Butthead is dreaming about just making love to Serena, and just like he's just like walking through,
baby.
And he's like, he walks into a club. And they're like, whoa, that's Butthead. I heard he had the sex. He's just like, yeah. And like one girl's like, did it hurt? He's like, no, not like I thought it was going to begin with. Again, kind of letting you into his head a little bit of just
how
like...
immature and stupid they are.
Yes! Whereas like he talks this big game, but in the back of his head, he thinks sex is going to hurt.
Yep.
It's like...
His ignorance knows no bounds.
Absolutely not. So we jump out of his brain and we're just like, oh boy, let's see what's in Beavis's brain. And in his, it's this beautiful romantic setting of them having a picnic, jumping through meadows. It's hilarious seeing the character of Beavis frolicking through a meadow of flowers.
It's almost like it's funny to seeing him move his shoulders up and down. To like Korean BTS music.
Yes. And in which... it leads into my second favorite joke in this entire fucking series, because the first one, of course, is the whole college scene. But the second one is during this romantic part, like these ninjas show up or whatever. I didn't write down who it was, but then like Serena turns into like this Xena warrior princess type, kills all these motherfuckers.
Late 90s, like
heavy metal type.
Yeah, with this late 90s fucking stereotypical dream sequence.
Oh, yeah. And then like, lifts her big power sword and like summons like lightning and shit. And they're like flying off on like this this rainbow on a unicorn, but you don't see the unicorn's face. All you see is like the horn and like the body for a little bit. But then you see like Beavis like on the back of Serena, like hugging her, just like yeah. She's like taking charge, across like this beautiful like rainbow pink field. Zooms in, it's Butthead's face
on the unicorn.
On the unicorn, and he just goes, I'm a deer.
I fucking lost it. I lost it when we were watching this movie. That right there, fucking, I about blew my fucking drink out. It's like, Jesus Christ, that's fucking fantastic.
And that moment right there is what made me go, I am so glad these guys are back.
Yeah.
Because it's still great stupid comedy,
Yeah,
but it's so well written.
But that's also like the cockpit joke.
Yeah.
That's what did it for me. That they hit that mark, and it's just like, I don't care if it gets better or worse, man. That's what hit it.
Get out of the cockpit. Cockpit. Get out!
Yeah. Get the fuck out. But like I remember we watched it, and we watched it again. I think the next day because Cap was here, and I looked on my phone, and someone had already made the meme of I'm a deer.
I know that because I was like, someone needs to make that a T-shirt.
Please have a shirt. Please have a goddamn shirt.
And that's of course the artwork for this episode is the, or actually no, it won't be the artwork for it. It needs to be the actual photo that they used for the cover. But no, I'm a deer is still the best. It's the fucking greatest. But yeah, so eventually they do return back home, expecting to find Serena, but they find out that the place is up for sale. And they don't know what the fuck that means. And they walk in and they kind of look around, and you finally get like a better view of like what the boys' house was. But it's been completely renovated. It looks really weird because time's moved past.
And this is kind of the weird fucking explanation that ends up happening because they've been gone for so long. Butthead's mom,
Beavis's mom
assumed they're dead.
Yes.
She gave up. That's what we get. We get the verbatim words, oh no, she gave up and decided to sell the house and leave.
So you did not expect so much lore building in this episode. Or at least I didn't.
I'm kind of glad they did because it gets rid of speculative questions. But yeah, the mom stuck around long enough, and
well, even just the little bit of stuff is like, the big takeaway for me was like, oh shit, this was Beavis's house. Because it was never addressed in the show whose house it was.
Yeah.
And you kind of just automatically assume they kind of lived together, oddly enough. Yet they were in high school. They somehow live together, can afford the place, and like their parents are so deadbeat and not in the picture that they don't even notice that their kids are gone and probably living in some squat house.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the little mental thing that you piece together. But then you find out it's like, oh, Butthead just constantly hung around Beavis's house. Adding that extra layer of the dynamic. Yeah. So again, it's just even with that one line of like, oh, no, this was my house. It's like, oh, fuck. That lays so much more groundwork.
You know what would be the biggest fuck you to the whole thing? It turns out it's owned by Beavis's mom and Butthead's mom. They've been together this whole time, but because they're so fucking ignorant and blind, they don't see that their moms are together.
Oh shit!
Because it's probably a 2-bedroom house.
Oh man, that would see. I think
that's why they're hanging out all the time, because they don't realize that they have nowhere else to go,
and that they're technically brothers. Oh,
that would be the perfect fuck you.
That would be cool.
That would be funny.
Watch all the fucking like go woke go brokers get so fucking mad over that though.
But it's like it would fit because they'd be so blind because they don't know what a fucking lesbian is.
No,
they're just chicks, and like it would be the actual joke where Butthead's just like, yeah, Beavis's mom gets with so and so, with so and so. It's like, no.
They really are just jokes. It's like Beavis's mom's a slut.
Yeah,
this is like, no, she's fucking your mom.
Yeah, but like say that would kind of,
that's like his coping mechanism to call his mom a slut and say she fucks all these guys.
I wanted that to gotta be like the funny part of Jay and Silent Bob when they're abandoned in front of a fucking store. It's like, here, Bob's gonna go get a pack of wraps. It's just like, but they're just two kids left together, and like that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the parents not there because they live together.
And you would learn more of the story, but Beavis has absolutely no interest in hearing about this, and they're more interested in the upgrades that the house has gotten, and turns on the disposal as the realty agent is telling them the whole story of Mrs. Beavis's problems and
anguish.
Yes, and she was like, and you even get like the "fuck you" line where it's like they turn it off for a second. She goes, and she told me that if she could just see her boy one last time, she would say to him.
That's a great joke from like the same thing they do in that 70s show. Hey, what's Fez's real name? It's and he's just like it
was the class bell.
Yeah, and the whole time he's just saying Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, Danny Masterson, and that's all he's saying the whole fucking time.
But at this point, it's Smart Beavis and Smart Butthead show back up, and they're like, yo, seriously, get through the fucking portal. It's in the bathroom. And they're like, no, you can't tell us what to do. All of a sudden, the fucking government busts on in. Come with us. They're like, no, Serena busts in. We're going to fucking kill you. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? Smart Beavis, Smart Butthead open up the bathroom door and they're like, get in the portal. And they're like, what the fuck is happening? Big ol' scuffle happens. And at this point, Beavis attempts to express his love to Serena. Smart Beavis interrupts him and offers to show her the cosmos, and she leaves with him and Smart Butthead.
Well, we kind of missed the part where they're taken hostage by the fucking FBI guys.
Yeah.
And there's this fucking like weird truce between the governor, Serena and the lieutenant governor, and the two guys who basically want to kill him and cut them open. And
then Hardson falls through the porthole, and they're just like, oh,
because that's where we get the chase scene.
Yeah.
Because they're chasing him down.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they're driving a vehicle, and they're trying to get back to their house as fast as possible. And "Children of the Grave" starts playing by fucking Black Sabbath.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's fucking yes, fucking metal as shit, man. And it's like one of the few rock songs in the whole fucking movie.
And it was perfectly placed too. Yeah. It was great. And but yeah, so it just kind of ends on a little bit of a, we don't know how to wrap this up, so we're going to wrap it up like this. So it's like Serena disappears with Smart Beavis, Smart Butthead after they offer to show her the cosmos. After undercutting Beavis, he's just like, I've got a coupon for like KFC and Taco Bell. They're in the same building. And Smart Beavis is like, I will show you the cosmos. You've been wanting to see this your entire life. I love you, Serena. Yada, yada, yada. And she's like, oh, I will come with you, and just disappear. And they're just like, what the fuck just happened? But then they cut right back to the couch.
Yeah.
And they're like, yep. So that's the story of what happened to us. We made a deal with the government. They bought the house. Made it exactly the way we wanted it again, and gave us a really nice TV.
Yeah.
Bye.
And now we get like two versions of the story now with the series, because the series either picks up where they left off, as young guys living in the now, or what if 1998 never happened? It's them old as fuck in 2022 living at Butthead's house, apartment.
But I just find, but I also just find it funny though that like the government is like trying to swear them to secrecy, and they're like, what can we do? And we're just like, we want the house, and we want it to look like it did before we like left.
Yeah.
And they're like, really?
That's it.
And they're like, yeah, and a TV. It's just like, fuck, you could have like gotten such a big fucking payout for silence.
The same thing happened to the Chicago arsonist. he ratted, and they're just like, what do you want? He's like, I just want a house away from Chicago.
And I will say, this last little stinger is the only bit that I was kind of hoping they did a little better, because they kind of hint at like the series to come, and they're just like, so now that we're here, I wonder what's going to happen next, or some little shit. I didn't make a note about this. I think it was just the end.
I think what would have been great is if they just started watching a music video at the end.
Yes. Yeah. Let's see what's on. Click. But it kind of like zooms out from the house and like goes back up into space. And this is the only part I was a little disappointed in, only because of the character models. It shows this huge arena of alternate Beavises and Buttheads, as Smart Beavis and Smart Butthead are like walking down the aisle, and like they're granted by like this British king and queen version of Beavis and Butthead, and they like grant Smart Beavis and Butthead the first group of Beavises and Buttheads to finally score. They're like, Beavis scored as Butthead watched. But they do a zoom out to like all the different alternates.
Yeah.
And the reason I was kind of disappointed with that scene is seeing so many different fan art versions of Beavis and Butthead throughout the years. It felt underwhelming.
Really?
It felt like there was a lot more interesting ones they could have done, and that they just kind of went middle of the road and kind of like NFT-ish, if that makes sense. You know what I'm talking about, where it's like it's the same model but like slight different variations. Oh, that one has a blue hat, that one has a red hat. And they kind of did that with some of them, and it felt a little weak.
I imagine that was probably just the tail end of how they're going to end it, and they probably had one written ending, and it was probably their probably original ending was, well, that's it.
Yeah.
And that was going to be the final.
And they were like, do something.
Let's add something.
Yeah. But all in all, I was fucking excited. That made me really happy. It was a good movie. And And the reason why I also really liked it was there are very few, at least in my opinion, at this point, there are very few genuine comedies that don't have an agenda. Mm-hmm. Because there are some comedies I like that still kind of push a certain mindset, that push a certain value system. There's very few that are just laughs for laughs.
Yeah.
And Beavis and Butthead, along with, I don't know, even South Park kind of toes that line of trying to push a specific idea or value.
It's giving a message.
It is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love, you know how much I love South Park.
But that's their shtick. That's their thing. They're not going to stop that.
Exactly. It's nice to have comedy for comedy's sake.
Like a Three Stooges.
Yes. Just silly humor.
That's what Beavis and Butthead will always be.
Smart, written, silly humor. Because you can watch something like Paradise PD or Brickleberry and just want to shoot yourself in the fucking head.
No,
or
it's like layered.
Yes. It was because it's also Mike Judge. Mm-hmm. He's a great writer.
Yeah.
So I feel like Mike Judge enjoyed the process of this. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like he was pulled into it. It was just like we want to do this.
It kind of, after watching that, it kind of made me have a little bit of trepidation about what King of the Hill is going to end up being.
Really?
Yes. I think when it first comes out, because you're going to be looking for some tropes that have always been there. What are they going to do with the characters? Are they going to be older? Are they going to be staying the same age? Is this a reboot?
So, fun fact, any Mike Judge fan, I highly recommend looking up the podcast How He Does Stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a new podcast from Howie Mandel, and
I saw it posted on YouTube.
And he's got some great interviews. He's done Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and like he doesn't ask them the typical questions because he's got like a little history with them. So it's a very casual conversation. It's really
Gene,
good.
do you paint your dick?
But with that, he also did one with Mike Judge.
Yeah.
And which Mike is kind of, promoting the new series and the movie. And he even seemed happy to talk about it. It wasn't just like we're doing it again. It was like we're doing it again. And like, I think a new episode comes out tomorrow. Y'all need to watch it. It's pretty funny. He's like actually enjoying it. But through that, Howie asked him about, is there going to be a King of the Hill reboot? And he kind of danced around it. He didn't answer anything specific. He said that there's nothing happening right now. Mm-hmm. He said there's nothing that's been written. He said, but he has a story in his mind, and it wouldn't take long to execute because they talked about the animation process and how much easier it is to animate this stuff and how much quicker it goes.
7 days to air, baby.
So he's already just like, I've got the story in mind. He goes, it would take no time at all to get it produced and released. He goes, but nothing's set in stone. He goes, but if I were to do it, I would definitely be interested at seeing what Bobby was like as an adult.
Yeah.
So he's already said that if a King of the Hill reboot were to happen, time didn't stop.
Yeah.
It's going to be Bobby is he late or probably a young adult. Yeah. Like kind of put him in that era of young adult.
26, something like that.
Yeah. Kind of like the flashbacks of Hank.
Yeah.
Almost.
The only problem I have with that is the way they wrote King of the Hill, and Bobby is so well-rounded to be a master of none type situation. Like, he shouldn't have any problems. And it's going to be weird seeing him like a Hank Hill type character who's really well versed in a lot of different things at once, and like what his core group of friends is going to look like.
Well, see, I feel like there's actually a lot of good storytelling in there, only because I don't know, maybe because I relate to a point, because at least with my upbringing, Mom very much instilled a lot of manners. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Hold the door open for people. Be respectful. Be quiet. All that kind of stuff. So when I was getting into the world, it took a little bit to get the street smarts aspect because I was still very, and I was also homeschooled for a while. So it's like I had like very much instilled values. So Bobby has that to a point. Let's see what happens when a good, well-meaning kid now has to deal with the cutthroat world that isn't always well-meaning.
See, that's where I think me and you differ. I think Bobby would be perfectly fine because Bobby also has a stern sense of what reality is compared to what his dad was seeing.
Yeah.
So, like, he understood consequence just like his dad did, but on a different level. No, Dad, you don't understand. This is what the new norm is. So I think that makes Bobby a little bit more well-rounded when it comes to when he gets older.
Ooh, or
just like Con and Connie, and just like the whole different attitude of all that.
I just stumbled on something that I really hope they do, and if they don't do this, I'm just not gonna like the series. Okay, check this out. Bobby was a kid. He was a teenager in the mid 90s. By the time 2022 rolls around, he's our age.
Yeah, he'd be probably 30, 33.
He would have a kid, and he would be having to deal with Gen Zers. A 90s kid, a millennial, having to deal with a younger audience. Like Hank had to deal with millennials.
Yeah, but it's different because there's the difference between millennials and Gen Z isn't much. All it is.
I don't know, man.
No,
they get on my nerves.
It's fine if they get on your nerves, but between the Xers and millennials, there's a large technological gap that is brutal as fuck. You witnessed this when I was on the phone watching you fuck with that cat. And I'm just like, no, we're going to press this button and we're going to press this button. And it's just like, that doesn't exist between the other two.
I don't know, though. I think it would be good because even though the technological difference is different, you've got mentality. I could see Bobby pulling a lot of like, guys, when I was a kid, we like went outside and skateboard. We did this, that, and the other.
But
What's your problem?
But he also played video games.
He did, but he did.
There's not. So what I'm saying is, there's not much difference between millennials and Gen Zers, as there is between boomers and Xers and and millennials.
But I feel like that trope's overdone. It would be interesting to see the older millennial dealing with the new Gen Zers.
I think it just makes them look stupid.
Yeah.
You're painting a whole fucking generation as idiots that don't understand their own children. Then you got the pandemic kids. God damn, those fucking things are going to be monsters in 20 years.
Let's not even worry about that yet.
Pan babies.
Oh my God.
The pandemic babies.
The pan babies.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great episode of the Couch Potatoes. We're definitely going to do another one of these, a deep dive into the new Beavis and Butthead season.
I wish
that
Cap
came out.
could have joined us.
I know, right? He's always so fucking busy. He's never around. He's not even listening in right now as we're finishing up this ending segment. You
think we'll ever see him again?
I don't think we're ever going to see him again. But we're going to dive back into this as we break down the seasons, episodes. But again, like with this episode, we got to make a lot of notes because it's the subtle humor and the quick one-liners that make it great. But for this episode, I'm an Alex and Chris. Do you have any sort of final thoughts?
So Beavis and Butthead's mom run like a weird like farm, and they just leave them at the house as a secondary house that you actually never see them because they treat them like dogs. We send them onto a farm to live happily ever after, and they just feed them nachos and leave.